Welcome to Getting Real with Real Estate with Danielle Kempf and Jim Kempf, St. Louis's favorite father-daughter real estate team. Your source of real estate information in the greater St. Louis area.
All right, guys.
All right. Hello.
Hello there. Welcome to the podcast again.
Absolutely.
We've got a great show for you today.
Yeah, I think this one will cover a lot of different people out there, from, people buying their second home to, people buying their fourth, fifth, even sixth home.
Yeah.
I think this covers a lot of people.
It does. Yeah.
So hopefully it's informative.
Informative. That's easy for you to say.
It was a very easy word for me to say.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about buying and selling homes today, but before we start, you got a joke for us today?
I do have a joke. You ready?
All right.
Okay. So a realtor is passing out information for a house as potential buyers are walking in at an open house. One of the buyers says, "Hey, can I have one of those pamphlets?"
Okay, yeah.
The realtor replies, "Brochure."
Bro.
Sure.
Sure.
Bro.
Sure.
Sure. I thought you'd like that one because you're a bro kind of guy.
I talk to a lot of bros.
You do talk to a lot of bros.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like it. It's good. I might use that sometime at the next open house.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right.
All right. That has not that has a ton to do with today's topic, but it has a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to talk about buying and selling a house at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Is really kind of what we're kind of leaning at today. Mm-hmm. That can represent some serious challenges, right?
Yes.
Trying to coordinate. That's a lot of moving parts when you're. Of course, buying a house is a lot of moving parts. Selling a house is a lot of moving parts, and when you're doing them all together and trying to do it at the same time, you got a lot going on there. So
it's busy.
So we're going to kind of talk about how that can work and some options that you may have. What do you?
Let's
Danielle,
dive right in. What's the first step to that?
First thing. Well, I think. You tell them.
You got to get a good team.
Okay.
And to start off with, your team is your lender and your agent.
I would 100% agree with that.
So you're going to want to have conversations with both of them. It's not like you're going to want to talk to one before the other. You're going to want to talk to the two of them at the same time, because they're both going to give you information that you're going to need.
Right.
So
let's talk about the lender in particular, I guess.
Lender first?
What do you think
So the lender is going to talk with you, obviously, about your financial situation currently, but they're going to talk with you about if you can buy your home without having to sell your current home, or if you can buy before selling, and everything like that, and what your options are if you do have to buy before you sell.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's just like being a first-time home buyer, right? That we recommend those folks go straight to a mortgage advisor, right, and get a good game plan to find out exactly what they can afford, what they can buy.
Yeah.
So the same applies here. If you already own a home and you're looking to buy your next home, you need to get your lender involved, like Danielle said early, and get them so they can tell you financially what you can afford to do, right?
Exactly.
And how that process works.
Yeah, but a little bit different from the first time you do it. You now have equity from the home that you currently own. So your lenders want to know how much is your home currently worth, because in past podcasts we've talked about this, where your home value appreciates every year just based off the market. So your lender doesn't really know that information. They could probably pull it somewhere.
They can
probably get an estimate.
Sometimes they get close, but
really,
really,
your agent is going to be the one who really knows the market and can help you with that resale value.
Right. I mean, think about if you're moving up in a house, right? You're going to buy a more expensive house.
Yep.
You're probably going to want to put the equity you built in your first house into that second house, right?
Yes.
That just makes sense to keep your payment down
as low as
possible, and or to buy as much house as you can. Either way, you got to know what your house is worth, and that's where, of course, your agent comes into play, right? Yeah. Your agent can run some comps and tell you what the market value of your house is, and then, of course, that conversation with your mortgage advisor, right? Hey, what do I owe? What's it worth?
Here's how much equity I have left in it. A
little bit of math, and there you go. You know how much money you got to go into the new house. So very important step right there is to get that, those conversations started early.
Yeah.
And make sure you know exactly where. And then, of course, that helps us when we're looking for a house for you, because that lender's going to tell us, right? Just like Danielle said, do you have to be contingent on a sale? Can you afford to have two houses for a while and it's really no big deal?
Yeah.
that's going to impact the strategy we come up with for you. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In terms of buying and selling at the same time.
So when you're buying and selling too, you want to, especially when you're selling, you're going to want to know what's happening in the market, like right now as you're getting ready to sell. So is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Right now, it's June 2023. It's a very heavy seller's market. It's been that way since before COVID, 2018.
Since you got in the business.
Since I got in the business. You're right. I'm the reason for this.
It's all your fault. Yeah, it really. So I did a little, I like numbers.
You
Danielle,
do like your numbers.
I looked up some stats before we did the show here. And so in May of this year, there were 3,021 listings in the counties that we do business in primarily, right? St. Louis County, St. Louis City, St. Charles, and Jefferson County. That's kind of our little wheelhouse there. So 3,021 listings. Folks, when you compare that to May of 2019, just stepping back a few years, there were 6,743. So today there's only 45% of the inventory there was back in 2019. Right?
That's
and
wild.
It's crazy to think, right? That's more than half, right?
Half of the inventory's gone.
Now,
but all the buyers are still out there.
Yeah, you still got a lot of buyers out there, but you got less than half the inventory you ever had. So that is, again, what's driving our seller's market, and that's what has been driving it. And that's why, the home values in St. Louis continue to rise, where a lot of people hear around the country how bad I hear it all the time. People tell me how bad the real estate market is. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because they're listening to the national news.
Well, yeah, because they're hearing like California and Arizona where it boomed just crazy during COVID, like 2020, 2021. And now those values are just...
They're plummeting a little bit.
They're plummeting because they are not sustainable. But here in St. Louis, we never had that. No, we didn't have it as bad.
We didn't have it, period. I think the numbers continue, or our values continue month to month to go up.
Steadily increase.
Steadily. So... we're still in a great position in our market. Now, if you get into some higher price points, you might be starting to see some inventory sit a little bit. But, for the most part, we're still in a heavy buyer's market.
Oh, yeah.
We do have a little bit more inventory. Inventory is up about 10% since January of this year. So it is up a little bit more, but it's just still very short. So that's why we're still in that buyer's market, and or that seller's market, excuse me. And that's why it can be tough when you are... Right, when you're on the buy side of your decision to buy and sell, right? That can be the hard part.
It is, because you can't sell your home at the top of the seller's market and expect to buy at the bottom of the buyer's market. That's just it doesn't switch that quickly. And I would love if it did, because I would love to sell your home for 8% over list and then help you buy 10% under list, but that's just not today's market, unfortunately, guys.
Not if you're buying in St. Louis. Not
in St. Louis. So I guess let me just ask you this: what does it mean to be contingent on the sale of your home?
Well, it's just so that's just simply you're going out looking to buy a home, right? So you write an offer to a seller, and you have to put in a contingency that just simply states that you cannot close on that transaction until you sell your house. Okay. Right. So there's a couple different riders that we use for that. Right. Contingent on a sale, but typically it's contingent on a sale and closing. Yep. If you happen to already have your house under contract, you would use what's called a contingency for the closing. So it's a little different, but that's just typically what you would have to do when you are
buying and selling at the same time. And in a perfect world, in a vacuum, you get those dates matched up on the same time. You sign all the documents within the same hour or so, and you hand off the new keys and you get the new keys. And in a perfect world, that's great. Right. And
that's usually what we try to accomplish.
That's what we try to do, yeah.
But sometimes it's not possible.
Yeah, exactly.
It just really depends. There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts with both parties, both sides, both transactions. There's just a lot to do. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, there are some things you can do or you can try to do with, say you are selling your home, right? Yeah. So you're in the favored part right now if you're the seller, right? Yes. So a lot of buyers will maybe do some things that they might not normally do just to get your house, right? Like give you an extended time to close or something while you're looking, right? You might be able to get 2 or 3 months instead of the normal 30 days.
Exactly, ask for a 60-day closing type thing.
So that can sometimes give you that extra little cushion of time that you might need to get out and find and get your new home under contract.
Yeah.
But, again, keep in mind, like I think we've talked about before, sometimes it's, you go looking at houses, you write an offer, you get turned down or you got beat out by 10 others, and then you do it again next week, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit
It takes
of
a
time.
while, yeah.
It sure can. So, but, okay.
Alrighty. Do we want to talk about the pricing strategy of selling your home first, or do we want to talk about the different options of buying before you sell or selling before you buy?
Well, let's just talk about that pricing.
Let's talk about that pricing real
strategy.
quick.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when we talk to our sellers, right, about the market value of the house, that's a value consider. That's right. We can kind of tell you what it's worth.
Yes.
But then there are the different strategies that you can utilize in terms of how you price the house to get your desired result.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning, right? I mean,
if you want a quick sale, maybe list a little on the lower side of that price point.
Yeah.
If you have time to wait, then list what you normally would. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's just an important conversation you have with your agent, because you have to, we need to understand your goal.
Yes.
Right? And that's how we help you achieve it. So, if the goal is, hey, I've got my dream house and I'm either under contract or I want to be under contract on it. When we list your house, right, you may want to go a little more aggressively on the price, which, folks, that means a little bit lower. Sorry, but it does.
Yep.
But then you just let the market drive that number and let people fight over it.
Yeah.
But what it does is it achieves your goal of selling quickly.
Yeah.
And if that's a goal, that's one way of accomplishing it.
Or I guess another on the flip side of that, if your lender is saying, hey, you need as much equity out of the house as possible, but you're okay with sitting on the market a little bit longer, because maybe that gives you a little bit more time to go out and look at houses and get under contract.
Yeah.
Maybe you list on the little bit higher side of that and you're okay with sitting, but you're trying to get as much equity as you can out of the house.
Right. That's right. And again, depending on
your situation,
on your
it's going to
individual
change.
situation. Right.
Yeah.
Some folks have a ton of equity in their homes, and sometimes what you can do is to, I'll digress here just a second. Some folks just happen to have a lot of money, right, in their pocket or in the bank or whatever that's not doing much for them. So if you got a lot of money, a lot of equity in other assets, even you can use that, right, to buy another house.
Absolutely.
And then once you sell yours, you just reinvest or whatever. That's one option for you too. If you do have a lot of home equity in your property, sometimes you can get a HELOC, right? That's a home equity line of credit.
Yep.
Sometimes what that can do is allow you to afford some additional payments on if maybe you're stuck with two houses for a minute.
Yeah.
Right? So if you went ahead and bought
before you
sold, you still got to pay two mortgage payments, but sometimes you can do that out of your home equity, right, until you actually sell. But just keep in mind that home equity line has to be paid off, so that's going to lessen your proceeds a little bit.
Yeah. And going off that too, to help you cover two mortgages at the same time is a bridge loan too. That's another option that buyers have out there.
Right, and that's it's kind of similar to a HELOC. It's just a
loan instead of
loan, right?
Yeah, it's a bank loan instead of on your house.
Yeah,
a line of credit.
Yeah, they just give that to you really based on your equity, probably in the house.
Yeah.
So that's an option for you to talk about to your mortgage advisor too. And a lot of lenders don't offer that product. So, again, that's where
having a good team.
That's where we can help you to direct you. If that is an option that you want to consider, we can direct you to the right people who have those.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go on to buying a house before you sell. So like that HELOC and that bridge loan would be examples of you bought that next home and you have to now sell your other one. So you have to pay those two mortgages for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it.
Right.
You can always also, like we had mentioned before, ask for an extended closing for buying before selling. And just to
give yourself a little more time.
Yeah, to get your home sold. So you would, as the buyer, you would, push it back, and then you would list your home after you probably get under contract.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The other option you could too is to rent your house out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you want to buy before you sell.
That.
That's a whole nother topic, and I think we'll probably talk
about rentals another day, folks.
Yeah, we will. But that if that's something that some folks may have to do that, right?
Yeah.
I think that was more common. When I first started in the business, that was extremely common.
Back in 07, 08, that was.
Because it took forever to sell a house. So
yeah,
a
it
lot
took
of
like
time,
6 months, if not more, to sell a house.
Yeah, so a lot of times people just say, well, hey, I'll just put a tenant in there because they had to cover that payment, right? So, but again, it makes sense for some folks, right? Yeah. And what that just simply does is if it covers your mortgage and maybe you make a few bucks on it, and then that allows you to go ahead and get in that other house first, and then you can worry about selling it later.
Yeah.
Now you're selling with a tenant, so that's not always the ideal situation.
Again, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, but anyway, so we may talk about more.
Yeah, or I guess another option in with that is make your purchase offer contingent on the sale of your home. So that, like Jim was saying, the riders in there, and if you want, we can have this conversation over the phone in person and go over it more in depth about your personal situation. But you can make your offer on a new home contingent on the sale of your current home. Right. Now, however, that does make your offer a little less competitive. That's one of the cons of doing that.
Right.
Because if you have a cash offer and someone who's going to say, I can close in a week, versus someone who says, I need 60 days to sell my house and get someone else in it. As this new seller for the new house, that's a lot of...
It's a lot of ask.
That's a lot of ask. That's a lot of...
it's a lot of risk.
Risk. That's a good word for it.
Yeah, sellers don't like that. So when you're... in a case like that, you have to put on your seller's hat. Right? So when you're going to buy...
Because you're going to be a seller here too, anyway.
Yeah, when you're going to buy something, you got to flip your hat on, like I put my dad hat on sometimes. Yeah. But you put on your buyer's hat or your seller's hat, right? And what
kind of offer would you want in your house?
Would you rather have a cash offer that can close next week, or would you rather have somebody says, well, I got another house to sell and I got this.
I need to have a buyer for it lined up. And it becomes a lot of risk in there.
That's right. And you got to be competitive as a buyer, so that's part of the problem.
You do, yeah. So some other cons of buying before selling, you may feel a little rushed to sell, whether that's just maybe not getting top dollar for it, or you're just not ready to be on the market. You just take pictures with your phone and just throw them up there and say whatever we can get, we can get.
Right.
You might feel a little rushed that way, and then you might not get top dollar for it.
That's right. That's a negative for sure. So.
And you may not also have cash to cover your current home. So that's where we're talking about, like that HELOC, that bridge loan, any repairs that need to be done at the new house. You're kind of tied up for a little bit.
Yeah, that can strap you for a little while.
It can. So. But there are some cons, or some pros, sorry. There's a few pros to buying before selling. And that's, you only have to make one move, which is really convenient. Because, like, a double move, like, that's annoying. I want to be honest. Like, as someone who's moved, we've both moved multiple times. Moving is a headache no matter who you are, no matter how many times you've done it.
Yeah, nobody likes to pack, and nobody likes to pay, and think of the cost involved in that too. Because if you have
storing,
if you have everything packed up in a truck or something, and it's got to sit on some lot somewhere, you're getting charged for that.
Yeah.
So consider the expense of double moving. So it is nice to have that one move in and out kind of situation if you can make that work.
If you can make the closing dates line up just perfectly.
All right. Good.
Okay, so now let's go to the flip side of that, and where you sell your current home before you buy a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and you can kind of do a, similarly like Danielle was talking about the contingencies, right? You can, when you sell, you can have a contingency that on buying another house too, I guess, right? But that's a little bit, again, in the market where the seller is kind of the, you're kind of at the advantage. You might be able to do that. Another option there too is to potentially sell your house and rent it back from the new owner.
Yeah.
Which is, people think is kind of odd, and it seems a little strange sometimes. But, if you need to close in 30 days or something, you can sell it. And then, but if you don't have your next home picked out, right, you can sometimes get an opportunity to rent back that house for a month or two from the new buyer. We've had several clients that a couple that have done it, and a couple in different areas.
And it worked.
And it worked just fine, right?
Yeah.
So that works well in some cases.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so let's go on to the pros of selling before you buy. you only have to focus on one deal at a time. You know, you only have to focus on the selling, and then you focus on the buying, which does take a little bit of stress off you.
It does.
But then again, on the flip side of that, you got your double move and the storage costs and everything we just talked about on that back end of it.
Right.
But
there's a little. Well, I was going to say there's some peace of mind though when you're only having to concentrate on one transaction at a time.
Yeah, because it can get totally confusing when you have two going at once. Like, which inspections were we talking about? Do I need to repair my water heater, or was I asking for the seller to repair the water heater?
That's
you know.
Right. That's right. No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But.
And then also, if you sell before you buy, you just automatically roll your equity into your new home. Mm-hmm. So that's super nice that your payment is just that much lower. You know exactly how much equity you have in your current home when you sell, and then you just roll that straight into the new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really nice, I think, for sellers or for homeowners to know.
Yeah. I think the ideal, like in my mind, I think it's doing it at the same time. Right.
Well, I think in everybody's mind, that's the best way where you close on the same day. But, I mean, and like Jim said at the beginning, we do our very best to make that work, and it just takes a little bit of extra communication between the listing agent and the selling agent. And we can make that work, but
it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge, honestly, I think. I mean,
I would agree with that.
Well,
I mean,
there's a lot to it. Like we talked at the very beginning, there's so many moving parts really in each transaction, but then to kind of double that up and put it, combine everything to make it, kind of that ideal situation for you to where you close one,
close the other one,
give your old keys up, pick up your new keys, have the moving truck, move your stuff
in front of the house, and you're good to go.
And that's the ideal, but it takes a good team to get that to happen for sure.
So if you have any questions for half of your team here, we're your agents for that. Like Jim said, we've helped a handful of buyers do this. Well, sellers too, buyers and sellers. We've helped a handful of clients do this before. I got one going on right now. So I mean, we work it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if it's even on the wish list, right? We would love to have a conversation and just chat about, kind of how to structure what you need to do to get to where you need to be.
Exactly.
Really. That's kind of what it is in a nutshell.
It is.
Because we can make anything work. It's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page and trying to get it done. So we'd love an opportunity to earn your business if you're considering, buying and selling at the same time.
Absolutely.
And
feel free to reach on out to us and stay tuned for our other podcasts.
You got it.
Have a good rest of your day, folks.
You've been listening to Getting Real with Real Estate with the Kemp team. Have questions about real estate or something you'd like to discuss? Contact the Kemp team at 314-336-1926 or visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Kemp team. Don't want to miss any episodes? Follow us on your favorite podcast app or YouTube. The Kemp team. Real, honest real estate.